It is a cold, rainy Thursday. Thursday. I don't know. There goes Ira. He's going to sleep in his little cat bed. Never been one for like high energy videos. Yeah. So making the board game took so much time. I kind of want to just go over like how everything happened and kind of the process and what I've learned, because what I thought I knew, I was not prepared for, and there was just so much more beyond all this. So I'm going to try to do this in like small sections so it's not overwhelming. But to start, the board game was originally made between me and a friend, and I honestly think this is like one of the most creative friends I've ever known. So what happened was we decided that we wanted to make a board game. I don't even know, I think I have a book somewhere that has like all of the original ideas. Like when we first started writing things down, I had a book and he had a book, and like we wrote down what we thought would be cool, what we thought would be interesting, good. What it came down to was, when it started, I think he said he wanted a game that was ever changing. Like every game was different and unique. That was like his contribution to start. And then mine was, I think we played a game, I think it's called Labyrinth, which is funny because we used Labyrinth in the name. Probably is like a little nod back. I have no idea, honestly. And it's like you slide tiles like across a board. I loved that game. I thought it was so interesting. I thought it was so cool. So it just makes sense that like it was used as a way of like building into our game. I said, what if we do a labyrinth, and what if there's tiles and like they do unique and special things, and like all of a sudden that like helped create the game. So we were like, all right, cool, let's start. And I went to art school, so I had like this big newsprint paper, started just throwing out arbitrary things. So it was like certain tiles that we'd like to see. We just came up with like a random number of like squares for the board game. And I remember I took my rulers and I like drew out a perfect square, and then I marked it all out, and I like drew it on with Sharpie. We just played the game. Like didn't even have a boss, didn't even have characters, didn't have monsters, didn't have anything. We were just like, okay, like how feasible is it to go from like the top of the board to the bottom? And I was like drawing all the paths with pencil. I was like, all right, so like let's just say I drew like a straight path, like whatever. And after we like 5 or 10 minutes of testing this, we were like, okay, wait, this kind of does work. We started to like break down the math. Certain things just sort of fell into place and were very intuitive to add to the game. So like, of course, you'd have a number of tiles equal to the number of spaces. We basically we did this so bad, it took us like hours. We took all 196 and we numbered it in like a spreadsheet, and we gave a tile type to that number, randomly generated numbers as our pull for the turn. So like if you randomly generated a number like 74, we would go through the spreadsheet and be like, 74 is an L tile. And then we would mark off that we pulled that tile. And then we do another random number generator. And like as the game went on, we just kept hitting the same numbers over and over. So the games took forever. I think in that time we wound up being like, we need more tile types. We need more like things to happen. We started adding like rotate tiles. We added like dead ends. I think we added monsters at one point, and we were like, that's cool, but we're like, who's fighting the monsters? Us? And like, how does like, is it just generic? So then we decided that there should be playable characters. They weren't even gonna have anything special about them, like no special stats, no special abilities. They were just going to be like, oh, I'm playing a wizard. And we were like, but why would you just have a wizard? Then we decided to add stats. I think I was looking at it and I was just like, I think we can do more. Because I love adding abilities and things like that. I feel like the depth of like what you can add to a game is just crazy. And I think we had a general understanding of how the game worked at this point. So we knew what abilities would be good and what would be bad. Yeah, so a lot of the characters we did start with, the base 10 that you've seen and now have the official art and things like that, a lot of their abilities have not changed since the beginning. I think the only two that have would be Yukimura and Asher. Besides that, everyone else has stayed, I think, 100% the same. They've never been changed. They've been tweaked wording-wise, but that's about it. At this point, we were like working on it for like 2 or 3 days straight. When he came back, he actually made a program that when you did the random number generator, it would take the number out. So like we never had to make sure that we like didn't have the same number over and over. So like took out of the spreadsheet, and all he would do is he'd reset it and we'd go back. I wound up printing out the character cards for us so we could see them instead of like having them written down. I like designed the first wave of the cards. We started throwing in monsters, different types, bronze, silver, gold, and then we were like, well, what's the point in beating monsters? Like, why would you beat a monster? And then we came up with items, the item breakdown of like you needed swords, boots, armor, 1 to 5. Then we started breaking down like the quantity of each item. Statistically speaking, like what are your chances of getting a sword? What are your chances of getting a boot? generic items, what would be good. That was a lot of like trial and error, which was just, again, very fun. Then we got to the point that we were like, what is the purpose in this? Is it just the first person to get to the end? And we started hitting so many problems. Fast characters were just so broken. No matter who you played, the fastest character would most likely win. And it didn't matter about abilities. So we started having to put their like limiters or barriers on the game to stop fast characters from just running away with the game. When you discover a tile, your turn ends, because it gave the fast characters a breaking point, and it gave slow characters basically like they were on the same like playing field. Slow characters became equalized with fast characters, but late game, fast characters could like outrun the dungeon, but late game, most likely the slow characters might have been like slowly getting to the end, where the fast characters were dying over and over and over again, and you basically were like on the same level at this point. As soon as slow characters get like boots 3, like they're just so strong. So we put limiters on that, and we built the rule of when you beat an already discovered monster, you could still move one more space. That allowed to speed the game up a little more. It basically allows for you to discover another try, which progresses the game, or find another monster, which is another chance to get items if there's 2 in a row. So that was really cool. And then we decided like, what is the point of the game? Like why would you get to the end? And basically we took all these steps one at a time. We would play test over and over again, and we'd see like, is this good? Is this bad? Do we have to tweak like tile types? Which ones are we pulling more often? How fast can you get through the dungeon? Do you hit roadblocks? It was trial and error for like weeks. We just like locked ourselves in a room. We play tested over and over and over again for hours. He had a spreadsheet. He took pictures of the ending of the boards. He wrote down who played the games, how long the games took, what items everyone had, and like statistics. And it was crazy. Like he is amazing. Eventually we decided to add in bosses. And this was now time to figure out balancing of stats, because your character comes with 3 abilities. Go to bronze monsters, and bronze monsters have less stats. Silver monsters have less stats. Gold monsters have more stats. They have like 15 points broken down. And then bosses have 20. After a bit of tweaking, we kind of realized speed is irrelevant. At a certain point, you will outspeed every monster and every boss, and it does not matter how much more speed you get. How we had to like compensate this wasn't even too bad. It basically meant that like slow characters were at a really big disadvantage at the base game, where fast characters were better. But late game, there's a point where like if the boss had 3 speed and you had 10, you have 6 technically wasted points in your stats, and like you would love to have allocated those points to somewhere else. Versing like a fast boss that has 10 speed and you have 11 because you have a pair of boots or whatever, that 1 extra speed you have is really important, because it gives you a chance to just cheese the boss, and because they probably have low HP but still high attack, they're a glass cannon, the same as you're just a better glass cannon. So the game became very situational, which is cool, because you could have like a game where you're doing horrible as like Raiden the Viking, and then the boss is you're the perfect counter for that boss, and the entire game you thought you would never win, and then you just slowly trudge your way to the boss and you could win now, and you do win, and it's like the biggest upset, and it's so cool. Yeah, so we wound up making bosses. Then we realized that they should have abilities, and we wound up making a combat ability, and then we were thinking like how crazy, because we couldn't fathom 2 combat abilities on a boss. We thought that like we would just run out of ideas. Characters, you could have abilities that are combat, item based, movement based, and then generic. Bosses don't move, they don't need items, and they don't need like generic, they just need combat. So that really limited us, where if we tried to put 2 combat abilities on a boss card, we were worried that we would not be able to create as many bosses as we have. We thought of a combat ability and then a board ability. It adds like an extra rule for whatever boss you have, which means that every game not only is different from the beginning, but based on what boss you have, it's like infinitely different. We worked for hours and days tweaking the numbers of tiles, the stat abilities on monsters, on characters. It was just like at the time we had dwarf, Viking, just generic characters. I'm a huge fan of like League of Legends, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, everything like that. Like any world building, like I love diving into. So I remember being like, hey, like let's give these characters like names, let's build backstories for them, let's build a world. Like let's let you like dive in, because like that's what I love. He's like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, that's not so much what I like to do. So he's like, if you want to take control of that, like that's all you, but like I'll still help. Raiden the Viking, we decided to like make Brooknir. We added Freya. We added like the tribes. Then we were like, yo, like what if the orcs were like, they just like came to this area and were like jealous of the Vikings. And the original map we drew, or I drew, it was just too small. It was like a continent. But I wound up tossing it out and making like a world continent, and like it's not anything crazy. It's like back here, I have it printed out too. The Kromatic map is there. We were done with the game. Everything was designed, everything was done. We problem solved, we play tested, and we were done after about a month. Basically what happened was we finished the game. We play tested a bunch over the summer with friends. Friends loved it. They would literally come over or like text in the group chat being like, hey, can we play your board game? We all want to come over. And there would be like 5 people, and the games would take forever because there's like 5 or 6 of us, 7 of us playing this game. And I was like, I don't know, it just felt amazing to know that they all loved it. So my friend had to go back to college. Well, he went back to college. I was like, all right, am I still working on this? And he's like, yeah, like I think we should try to like actually make this. Started working on the art, basically the monster manual, trying to break down the instructions. We were trying to have like business meetings once a week, and then he just got too busy with school, was like, can't really do it. So I was like, okay, we'll wait for the summer or winter break or whatever it is. And basically as time went on, he became a little less interested in the board game. And same thing with me, like not having someone to work on it with, it was really hard to keep my own interest in this because I worked on it for months and months and months. I got burned out. And basically it came to next summer, we were like, all right, let's try to do this again. We haven't touched it in forever. So now it's been a year. We were playtesting with friends again. They still loved it. We were making more characters, more bosses, testing some stuff out, try to add more things. So then we were playtesting with other characters. People loved them. We were adding so much to the game, but not finalizing the base game. And then again, summer ended, burnt out, and then it went like on a 2-year hiatus where like we didn't touch it. And at this point, the friend graduated college, was looking for a job, and he was like, I don't really feel like doing this anymore. He's like, I think it's just too much work, too much effort. It's just not really like worth it, or whatever it was. And I was like, you sure? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right. So then I started doing it solo. And then last year, about a year ago, I was not sure what to do. I was like, I just in life was very lost. What I wanted to do work-wise, what I wanted to do. I've been trying so much stuff in the meantime. Nothing was really working out. And then friends and family were like, what about your board game? Like, why not try and get it off the ground? So last October, I knew I wanted to do a PAX Unplugged. I knew we were working on the board game, art was coming through. I started to have to prioritize. So I made a new character, PAX, and I made it a promo card, and I like rush printed the card. Now I have like 500 copies of PAX like in this drawer back here. And I was like, I'll hand them out at PAX Unplugged. I was like, on the back, it's got like the business card. It talks about the board game because I didn't have the back of the card design yet. And I was like super excited for this. And then PAX Unplugged happened and I couldn't talk to anybody. There's no website, there's no Instagram, there's nothing to like talk to people about. I was like, what do I do? I was like, how am I gonna like convince people that like to play my board game or see my board game if I don't have anything online? I was so excited for PAX Unplugged, and then I had the realization that like I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. So I made the best of it. I talked to some people. A friend of a friend that was there really convinced me. Sat down, they play tested, they loved it, which was awesome. Because at this point, I'm still not sure, like confidence-wise, like if it is a good game. But everyone's telling me it is. Everyone tells me they like it. So I don't know. We're just going for it at this point, I guess. And then I basically enjoyed PAX Unplugged. I got to do some shopping. I bought some other board games. I talked to some manufacturers to get an idea that were there. I talked to people that did Kickstarter. I asked them some opinions and stuff if they didn't mind talking to me, which was just amazing. So that was great. And I was like, okay, I gotta take this serious. I made the company, Kromatic Games, created the website, got the domain, set up an email, did the trademark for the logo after I designed it, and then we were still working on art with just my college friend, and it was going slow. The way I was looking at it was the art that they still had to do, the art I still needed, everything I still need done. I was like, I'm looking at finishing this in like 2 years. So that started stressing me out. I was trying to keep the board game cohesive at first, having my friend do all the art because she was doing it for about a year. So she was slowly getting everything done. Around May, I decided I would look for more artists for the expansion set that I'm releasing that I've been talking about, The Lost Isles. I went online to Instagram. I started using my Instagram to look for artists. I started following. I went from following like 4 people to following like 350. I was contacting everybody. I was sending them messages being like, hey, are you freelance? Do you do work? And just kind of like finding art styles I liked, things like that. And then I just got a whole group of artists that I really enjoyed. Messaging them, figuring out which character I think they worked best for, seeing what they charge, seeing if it was in my budget. I created like a spreadsheet for this all so I could track the money. I could do the pay. I had to set up like the payment plans. I had to see if it was like feasible to contact these people who were international, which was just a huge step. And then I had to figure out contracts, things I never thought of. It took about a month before I found all the artists for the expansion. And then I contacted them and I sent them the information. And at this point, my friend that was doing the art, things were getting done so much faster and she was slowing down because she had other stuff going on. And then she asked me, do you think you could find other people to finish the board game? And I was like, yeah, totally fine. I could probably find some people. Again, at this point, I went from like 350 following to like 700. And that's when I started to find more and more artists, and I started contacting them, and I started like looking again at their art, and then I started being like, which character do they fit the best? And I was like picking the bosses, picking the characters, picking the art, which was just so much fun. That's probably like my favorite thing to do. So then I started reaching out to more artists, getting their quotes, seeing if it was in my budget, getting them to do that. From there, you basically know where we're at now. So we have all the art done, found a bunch of amazing artists, and along the way, found out more and more things I needed art to be done for. The card back, the logos for Lombard's Labyrinth, the cover art for the board game. All these things were things I had to take into consideration that I forgot about more. So originally my budget was like X amount, and then I needed to like up it because I was like, oh God, I forgot all about like, I need logos, I need cover art, I need card backs. And then more recently, someone brought up the front of my cards, which I designed years ago. And I didn't think anything was wrong with them, honestly. But I didn't think anything was wrong with them layout-wise. Art-wise, they definitely needed an upgrade. And like I didn't realize it until I contacted Ira. And they did the logo for the Jungle Isles, like the Lost Isles. And they've just been amazing doing the card fronts. Today, actually, I got an email that they're all done and getting all the files ready for me. So that's pretty cool. I'll be able to get those back. And then I would do a test print. And we'll get a print in and I'll have a very nice prototype copy. And then I guess more recently too, we're pretty much ready. I have the instructions done. That took me a very long time, or at least as done as I could possibly get them at this current state. So I reached out to a manufacturer and I gave them my quantity list. I gave them what I need. And I have a meeting tomorrow where we're going to do a video call and I'm going to find out what it's going to cost to potentially make this board game. Based on what quantities I need, and then I'm gonna see when we go to do the Kickstarter if Kickstarter is still a good option for me or not, or if I just order it myself and then try to sell them. But yeah, so much has happened. The game has gone through so many iterations. It's been so many years of working on it. Just been truly a pleasure to do this, and then I can't even explain how fast things have kind of come together in the past year. The art is fantastic. I know people are concerned with the art not being cohesive. This board game is everything I love about gaming. And one of the things I love is art. I don't really care if like the art is cohesive. If I like the art, I like the art. But yeah, we've come a long way. Prototype test should be here hopefully in like a month. I'll have a new box, I'll have new cards. And then I just basically started adding more stuff into the game that I enjoy, which is like alternative art cards, which is funny because one is Flamio, which we did the art competition for on Instagram. Shout out to the winner. They did a fantastic job. I love the Flamio art they made. And then the King's Crown, which is the promo card for this year's PAX Unplugged. No booth, no nothing. It's just me plopping down somewhere and trying to get people to come playtest my game. And then if you playtest and you win, you're going to get the King's Crown, which is an item I plan on adding. Like I said, I've been designing extra cards for like 3+ years. This is the first alternative art card, because it's not an official like card that would be found in like either packs of cards or an expansion set or whatever I decide to do. This is a promo card, so technically it is an alternative art for a card that doesn't exist yet. But yeah, so there's just been so much. If anyone has any questions, you want to ask me about like creating a board game, the process, anything, I'm gonna try and do my best to record more of like what's going on, or like the process of me designing or building things or problem solving. So if you have anything you want to talk about, please comment down below. I really, really enjoyed it. Hopefully, the instructions get cleaned up a little bit so people can play test it on Tabletop Simulator more, give me more feedback. I think I'm going to do some live streams on YouTube, playing the board game on Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, that's kind of like just a not quick video. Just talking about the board game. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble for potentially 40 minutes. To be honest, this video could probably be like 3 hours long or cut down into like 10 minutes of just the important stuff. But I do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys next time. Peace.